Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Coffee and Contracts. I am Rusty Witten, and I am super excited about this episode today. The market is always fluxing and flexing and changing in different directions from a retirement standpoint, from an investment standpoint, from a future building standpoint. And I wanted to have some time. I got Rob Lackey from P1 Financial Planning and Wealth Strategies here in Memphis on with me today to talk about what that looks like, talk about some coffee, and just hang out with a good friend. So, Rob, how you doing, buddy?
Man, I'm doing good. Excited. This is I'm so glad you reached out to me and excited to be doing it, man. That's great.
Yeah, I actually owe you all of the credit. This episode was or this podcast even was born out of our conversation that we had just chatting about ways to grow and collaborate in our business world, and just it was a good friendship, fun conversation. But you kind of sparked my interest in doing this and starting this. So I went home that afternoon after our coffee meeting, and it turned into Coffee and Contracts where we are now, man. So I appreciate you for this idea for sure.
Yeah, absolutely, man. My wife tells me I have good ideas on occasion. So we'll chalk this as one of the good ones for sure.
Yeah, exactly. I can attest that this was a good one, and it's worked out pretty well because I've learned a ton. We're giving out good information. And speaking of your wife, you talked a little bit to me about it. I want to give you a little bit of platform to kind of talk about y'all's other business that y'all run together, your coffee business. As a coffee connoisseur, obviously it's called Coffee and Contracts. I'm a huge coffee guy as I'm drinking it here at 3:00 in the afternoon. Tell us a little bit about your, about your coffee business that you and your wife do.
Yeah, so we sort of felt called into it. It wasn't anything other than I like to drink coffee excessively, some might say. That We had really no background in, but we had the opportunity. We met Taylor at JoJo's Espresso. I guess it's probably going back 3 years ago now when they were opening their storefront, and they had a trailer that they originally operated out of, and he kind of planted the seed. And then we met a local roaster who was amazing and was so open to teaching us some different things. And my wife really fell into the creative piece, learning about ingredients and how to make the different, lattes versus cappuccinos. And it kind of grew into something we really never expected it to be. But one of the things that in particular, as it kind of grew, because my wife is a nurse at Le Bonheur, and that's just a big heart thing for her. That was working with the kids, and the role that Le Bonheur kind of plays in the community was always sort of, if we were going to do this coffee thing, that we find a way to make it a community give back, a connection. And so she worked with Charles, who's the head roaster for Dr. Bean's Coffee, to create her own blend of coffee, and the proceeds from the sale of that coffee, which is what she uses primarily in the coffee business, but also that we do like a retail for, feeds back into Isaiah 117 House, which is a nonprofit organization that supports kids that are transitioning into foster care. And so it's, while there's certainly, with anything you do, there's growing pains and frustrations, but the heart that's in it and the people that it's allowed us to connect with, and the community, like the coffee community in Memphis, is really just fantastic. So
Yeah.
It's been a blessing. We've learned a lot, and probably the best part is just what feels like an endless supply of coffee at my house. I never worry about running out of coffee now.
So is your job title like Chief Tasting Officer, CTO? Is that what you are?
We could go with that. Yeah,
Yeah.
it makes it hard to go on some of the diets that I try and go on when my pants fit a little too tight, because
Sure.
my wife, believe it or not, does not love coffee. She
How about
started
that?
making coffee because I love coffee. She's more of a tea drinker, and so she loves getting creative with the different, because there's so many different spices and flavor profiles in tea, not unlike coffee, we've certainly come to learn. And matcha is kind of that's her big thing.
Yeah.
And so she creates all these flavors, and she's big on, she makes all of her own syrups that go into the different drinks that she puts together, but they're always complementary. Like, it doesn't want to overwhelm the flavor of the coffee or the tea, but complement it and like emphasize the quality that she's putting into the coffee. So um, it's yeah, definitely get to sample my fair share of coffees at the house.
Yeah, and I think that's what kind of led to our just our friendship, which is bonding over good coffee, and just hearing y'all's heart for the city of Memphis and the children that are in it was such a blessing to me, and definitely encouragement to me, and got me interested in Isaiah 117 House with my other side business, our Bluff City Media, or my sports content creation company. We're looking into ways and avenues to help support them as well through some of our parties, watch parties and stuff that we do for the Grizzlies. So I appreciate that. Super excited about that. And what a great segue in. You are a financial planner over at P1, looking at markets, looking at retirement, looking at future building for your clients. I guess we can kind of start there as we kind of take a look at the market. Tell me a little bit about your experience in financial planning, and then that kind of like parlay that into like just an overview of where you see the market today.
Yeah, so it again was just sort of one of those. It's not what I envisioned myself doing, much like running a coffee business. As sort of the very much a God thing that I had a family friend who said, "Hey, have you ever thought about being a financial advisor?" And I was 24 and I looked like I was 17 and didn't have much of my own money to speak of. So the idea of managing other people's money seemed kind of like a foreign concept. And fast forward, 14, 15 years, I couldn't imagine doing anything different. Just absolutely love it. I've had some different experience, both from working at larger insurance based companies, some larger local firms, and then just was really blessed with the opportunity a few years ago um, to start P1 financial planning. It was just sort of certainly not something I did entirely on my own, or that I even do now on my own. I'm blessed with some wonderful people that are a part of our team here, but really wanted to build something that felt bigger than me, wanted to do things kind of the way that I felt like I was called to do things. And so in several years ago, thinking about, well, if I do have the ability to make these decisions, like what do I want to call this thing that now I'm supposed to grow and, sort of lack of a better word, be responsible for, be in charge of. And I always love the people that I've had the opportunity to work with. I always wanted to put the clients first, put the people first. And so people first was kind of what spun into P1 financial planning, is always wanting to put people and clients first. And again, it turned into, an opportunity for a job, an opportunity to get back home to Memphis from where I was right after college down in Texas, and to really turn into a passion, and ended up going back to school and get my master's with a concentration in financial planning. Got my certified financial planners designation. So it's something that I love pouring myself into. I love learning about every day. And so to that end, about the current state of the market, that is part of what makes the job so interesting, because it's different every day, right? And almost impossible to predict, right? And that's what makes markets tricky, is because the market likes to be able to tell us what's going to happen. It likes to be a forward-looking predictor. And so when we have stuff if people have been tracking the market recently, when you and start bombing a country and potentially start a new war like that, that creates some volatility, because what is that going to look like? How long is it going to last? What is the financial investment? What is the military investment? Like, there's a lot of things create uncertainty, right? And something we can look at, like last year when we were talking about tariffs. I think that caught a lot of people off guard in terms of how swiftly we saw that come about and how it impacted the market. But it was all short term, right? So when we talk about the market, it's while there's always that potential for short term volatility that we're seeing right now with what's on the news, long term, that's where we really encourage people to look,
Yeah.
because day to day, there's always the potential to change day to day. But when we look at 5, 10, 15 years, that's where we like to live, and that's where people build that long term uh, success. That's how you quote unquote win the game. Is
Yeah.
look at the long term market.
Yeah, and I imagine that's easier said than done. You know, we live in such a I call it a microwave society, call it a TikTok society where everything's got to be ready in 30 seconds or less, hot and ready in 30 seconds or less, right? While Little Caesars made a killing with their hot and ready pizza.
Yeah.
But like when you're talking with your clients about that, how do you keep them focused on the long term and keep their focus off of that day-to-day volatility? Because I know I like to check my stocks that I have and see where they're rising and stuff. And sometimes it's like, oh man, this has gone down 3 days in a row. What do I need to do? Like, what are some strategies around helping your clients there?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it I think is really is just doing kind of what you said and it's just having the conversation, right? I think most things are about expectations. If I'm doing my job right and we're creating realistic expectations in terms of what the market can do and what the goal is, then it takes out a lot of the concerns about the short term. Now, somebody told me years ago when I first got in the business that we're always working to provide value and earn the money we make as someone's financial advisor, financial planner.
Sure.
But truly, where we earn our money is when the market is not doing well, right? Because I would say probably it's to your point, the most challenging when things aren't going well, when we see that portfolio of investments going down. That even though we know we're supposed to buy low and sell high, we all have this emotional attachment to our money, right? If I invest $1,000 and it goes up 10% to $1,100, now I have $1,100. And if that investment goes down to say $1,050, we don't look at it as, well, we still made $50. We look at it as we lost $50. And that's the type of emotional reaction we have to some of that short-term volatility. And that's why I think being available, having a relationship with your advisor is so important, because I don't want you watching the news. I don't want you calling your neighbor. I don't want you looking at the internet. Like, I want you calling me or calling your advisor to be able to talk through what is the reasonable, realistic response to what's happening, not the innate emotional response to like, oh, my money's going down. I don't want to lose money. Let me make a rash emotional decision.
Yeah, for sure. And you talked about that in some of the email exchange we have back and forth leading up to this. Like mistakes that people make when the market become uncertain is they chase performance, they react emotionally, and they abandon disciplined plans. And that really resonated with me because it's so easy, for a individual or or a business, specifically I work with healthcare practices. It's so easy when business dips a little bit, you start panicking and looking around like, okay, where do we need to make cuts? What do we need to do change? The same thing goes with market volatility. And that's why a designated professional is needed to help you think strategically long term and not just chase the day-to-day performance, but stay disciplined for the long term. And that's what's so hard with money, because people are so emotionally attached to their money. They work hard to earn it. They want to spend it where they can. They're worried about rainy days. What does the future look like? Can I retire at 45? Like, I think that's everybody's goal, right?
Mhm.
And so a disciplined professional like yourself is a great, teammate to have on this journey, I would say.
Oh, without a doubt. And and I may have mentioned this to you, but there's a book that I read, and it probably 15 years ago now. It's called The Millionaire Next Door.
Mhm.
Wonderful book. Pretty, I mean, it can get into the weeds, but it's pretty straightforward read. And that's a lot of what it talks about is the vast majority of people that have achieved that, the millionaire status, which maybe doesn't mean quite as much in today's world as it did back when the book was first written, I think, 15, 20 years ago. Um, but it's about how the vast majority of people who achieve that status didn't do it by, they bought Nvidia at the right time. or they didn't buy Bitcoin when it was $500 a coin, they were consistent. Right? It's they knew how much they were spending on their food, their clothing, and their housing, and then they were diligent about their saving and investing. And that's how, when you see that type of compound growth over, a 20, 25, 30-year career, that's how people were accomplishing that goal, right? It wasn't something magic. They didn't inherit it from a long lost uncle that passed away. Just diligent saving and making good decisions.
Yeah, for sure. Making good decisions. And that's a great kind of segue into just being smart with your money kind of long term. People always, I guess we'll start here from a personal financial standpoint and a professional financial standpoint. If you're looking to expand or grow your business, or you're looking to add another location to your practice, whatever that is, like the age old question, right? Should I pay off debt first or should I invest? Where's a good place to start for those that are kind of saving up for some of those long-term professional business decisions?
Yeah. So I think one of the things that, and it doesn't matter, whether it's like an individual client, whether it's a business owner, a lot of it, and it sounds simple, but it's that emergency reserve, that emergency savings, right? Excuse me. So if you're looking at expansion, do I have enough to cover my current operating costs? I'm going to grow my operating costs? Do I have enough, if it takes some time to get things up off the ground, to cover those costs while I'm building the revenue, right? And the same is true for business owners as it is for individuals. Do I have that short-term emergency covered? If I get hurt and I can't go to work for 3 months, or if I get laid off, which is, we've seen as a more common occurrence in recent years through COVID. Sure. And even currently, there's, last year we had International Paper, which was is a significant employer in our area, that has laid off, had three or four separate instances of layoffs, right? So having that portion of it secure, so that if you have that bad month, if it takes a little while to get ramped up, that you don't have to stress, like I've got the expenses covered. And then when it comes to the balance between debt and investment, there's the mathematical answer, and then there's the emotional answer, right? Because then, being in this business, a relationship business, the emotions are always important and should be considered. If I've got a mortgage, right, and my wife and I we timed it right, we're paying 2.8% on our mortgage, right? I can reasonably assume that even on a conservative investment, I can get a after-tax return better than 2.8%. So if I'm putting an extra $500 a month on my mortgage to pay down and save interest, over the long term, I'm actually operating at a net negative, because if I invested that money and I got, a 5, 6, 7% return, I've got less than I would have, or I've got more than I would have if I saved myself interest on the mortgage, right?
For sure.
But there is, again, that emotional component that not having debt provides for us, right? It's the same. If you're familiar with Dave Ramsey, most people at least know him in a passing sense, but he talks a lot about the debt snowball, and there's two different aspects to that, where you can pay off the highest rate debt first, or you can pay off the lowest balance debt first. And even though mathematically paying off the lowest balance may not yield the best long-term results, we get that emotional accomplishment along the way of eliminating, we accomplished a goal in the process, right? And so it really is a preference thing. The math would say, depending on what interest our debt is accruing, that there could be some sense to investing it. I think, again, like having some of that emergency funds, if you've got 10 grand in the bank and 10 grand of debt, don't take your 10 grand and pay off the debt, because if something happens, you're just putting it all right back on that credit card anyway, right? So there's not a one size fits all right answer.
Sure.
truly varies from person to person.
Yeah, and I think Dave Ramsey also said, and this stuck with me. One of the things he said is, if you account for every dollar and you know where it goes, you never have to wonder where your money went.
Yep.
And I think that's key, right? Like understanding your personal financial situation, your personal financial goals is the best way to determine what's best for you, along with advice from a professional such as Rob here. Having those good plans, having that rainy day fund is important. You always want to start with that because you just never know when life is going to life. I was a part of corporate cutbacks and layoffs the last summer. That's why we're sitting here having this conversation now and why I'm made the transition into commercial real estate. And so, but it was something I never saw coming. But I was prepared and I was ready and I had a plan and I had a windfall that I could fall back onto from some of my savings and investments that helped me make sure I was supported and had a plan for that. And so I think starting there for those life's emergencies is about the best way you can be smart with your money, along with planning for more future. Because it's not going to be one thing, right? Like not going to have car troubles only one time, or you're not only going to have one slip and fall in a medical bill, right? Or one little emergency. Like if only life operated that way, where you had one emergency pop up. An emergency, I can say this from experience, that some of these things were learned the hard way growing up. An emergency is not the latest hunting rifle or jacket or cool new shoes or the Ja 3s that are about to come out, right? Like I'm talking about true blue emergencies, and making sure you're saving that rainy day fund for those will help you be successful both personally and professionally through your financial journey.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So,
I mean, I think
yeah.
you summed it up perfectly.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So as we're growing our finances with our business, right, we're looking at different avenues. We're looking at different ways of investments and things that we can do. So we've talked about it a little bit, but like, what are some long-term habits that we should be building if we're looking to grow and expand our business or just our financial profile, right? Like, what are some long-term habits that should be in place to help us grow?
So I always equate this, and it sounds maybe overly simple sometimes, but I always equate it like going to the gym, right? It's there was a guy, and I wish I could remember his name, but he did a video that I saw a year ago or so, and all he made a rule for himself that he had to go to the gym every day after work. But there was no time limit on it. So he started going to the gym, and he would be there for 5 minutes and wouldn't even get out of his car half the time. He just was, but he made it to the gym. And then it kind of grew into just every day after work. He didn't go to the store. He didn't, go by his buddy's house. He didn't go home and make a frozen pizza or hit up McDonald's or Chick-fil-A or whatever on the way home. He went to the gym. And so then it kind of became well, now I'm at the gym. I might as well go inside the gym. And then he started making friends at the gym. And sometimes he'd go to the gym and he would just talk to people. Sometimes he would talk about what they were doing. And that kind of transformed into what were his workouts and what did he want to do and what were the things that he wanted to focus on. And over the course of, I want to say, he said it was like 18 months, 2 years, something like that, he ended up losing 80 pounds.
Wow.
Just by creating this simple rule of I'm going to the gym every day after work. Investing and creating financial habits that are going to help create that long-term success that we all want can be that simple, right? It's how can we automate it so it's not something that we have to think about, and then just get started, right? You don't have to be able to invest $100,000 into a portfolio to create that emergency reserve or to build out a significant investment portfolio. You gotta start putting something away. You got to start investing something, let the market start working for you. And then when you do that, it becomes easier to take those next steps. I'm doing $50 a month. Now I need to make that next step because I want to use this money to accomplish this goal, or I've decided I do want to retire early, or, I want to start this type of business, but I need X amount of seed money in order to jump into that venture. But if we've already started, if we're already going to the gym every day, it makes it a lot easier to step into that next level.
Yeah, 100%. And you said a word in there that I want to highlight for a second: automation, right? Like, my dad was not great with money. He spent as much as he could get, right? God love him, it just different strokes for different folks, right? But one of the things he always told me was when you're setting up your retirements and your company matching your 401k and that sort of stuff, automation is key because you'll never know it wasn't there. You'll never know you missed it, right? If it's already going out. So like
Yeah.
automation, making sure that it's automatically just investing is automatically part of what you do can be key to success so that you're not having to go in and allocate it monthly. If you set it up on auto withdrawal, then it's already being done for you, correct?
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's what people get into, that idea of, yes, automation, but also the idea that I've got to have X to before I can get to Y.
Mhm.
And that's true. That's one thing that I emphasize with so many of folks that I talk to is there's over 1,000 different, securities registered financial advisors in Shelby County. Right.
Mm.
So there is somebody out there that could be a good fit for your situation. Not everybody requires $1 million of investable assets to get started. So reach out and start having those conversations, because it's not there are people that are willing to help you, that want to see you be successful, want to help create the financial life that you want to have. You just got to be willing to have some of the conversation and do a little bit of the time investment as well.
Mm.
Because that's, I know, a point that we've always made, that, I've been blessed that my business has continued to grow over the 14, 15 years, but we don't have like a hard minimum. You got to have X amount of dollars to get started. We have clients from age 16 to age 97, with all different sort of portfolio sizes and socioeconomic backgrounds. And so find somebody, just like, if you struggle with fitness, like, you find a nutritionist, you find a personal trainer, you find somebody that can help provide that accountability, provide that expertise to take that next step.
100%. And I think that's a great segue. It's like you're a pro, man. It's like you know what you're doing here. You just set me up with these perfect transitions, and this wasn't even planned. So kudos to you, Rob, for that, for sure.
Yeah.
But we've talked about what financial planners can do and all, but like, what is their role in this? You talked about it a little bit, finding that professional guidance, that professional help. But what are some ways what are some of the roles that a financial planner can play in both your personal and professional financial outlook?
Yeah, so it's become one of those, almost like kind of like a buzzword recently. There's a lot of people that say they do financial planning, uh, that may not actually do financial planning. Um, but when you really get into the weeds of like what is financial planning, it's at its core, it's just taking what's happening with your money and connecting it to your values and life decisions, right?
Mm.
Um, and it's probably a dated reference, but it's still my favorite, and I use it all the time. Is that I've not met anybody in my career thus far that just wants to it envisions like being that Scrooge McDuck, right? Like they want to have just a pile of their money in a room at their house they can just go dive into and swim around and splash it and throw it up in the air. Like, it's nobody wants to do that, right?
Yeah.
It's always about what does that money allow us to do. And that is what a good financial planner can help you do, is not just figure out how do I make my money grow, but how does that tie into what my values are and the goals that I want to accomplish in life. And there's been like this sort of philosophical shift from, to some degree, our parents' generation, definitely our grandparents' generation, where uh, working working happened, and then there was retirement. Like you got a job, you worked until you were 65 or until you could collect your pension. That's when you retired and did the stuff that you wanted to do.
Right.
Now this shift is not towards specific like retirement, but financial independence, right? And that's the word that gets used a lot today, is not, how much money do I need to save to finally just stop working or stop doing some job. But it's, where do I need to get to in terms of this portfolio of assets that will create income that I don't have to work for. So then I can go pursue the things that I'm passionate about and not necessarily have to worry about how much money it does or does not make me.
Yeah.
And that financial independence number is kind of a different thing for everybody, depending on when you want that. Do you love your job? Do you want to travel the world? Do you want to start a nonprofit? Do you want to start a business? Um, and that's why doing financial planning, it ties that money and what we're investing it for to something real for you. And that's like at its core what I think financial planning is really about. It's connecting that money to the real life values and decisions. That way it makes it a little bit more meaningful, and we know why we're making those financial decisions we're making on a given day or month, right?
Yeah, tying it back to a value based system is huge because that makes it much more individualized, right? Because my goals are different than your goals, that different than X, Y, and Z out here listening to it, and my ability to get to where I want to be depends on where I want to go. And so having that financial planner to help you kind of map that out can help. And you're not just sitting there being the no man, right? Where I call you and you say, no, you can't do this. No, you can't buy that. No, you can't go this direction. You can't go on this vacation. It's about goals. It's about being smart. And I think that's one misconception about financial planners, right? Is that I call you, you tell me, no, you can't spend money. You have to invest it. Are there any other misconceptions about financial planners that are out there that we should go ahead and squash here on Coffee and Contracts?
Yeah, I think that is the big one. And I always tell folks that I'm like, my goal is not to tell you how to spend your money or not to spend money, is to help you figure out how to spend more of it when you want to spend it and in the most efficient ways, right?
Well, I like that.
I think one of the other big things is that, and I mean, I think a lot of it's, you look at historical like movies about the this particular career path, is that it's very salesy, right? That we're here to sell products. And I think it's, Wolf of Wall Street. One of the things that, he references is like, it's my job to take money from their pocket and put it in mine because I know how to spend it better than they do. And if you find a good advisor, a good planner, that is not the case. Like, certainly we want to make a living. That's, we have families and things that we want to accomplish in life too. But we're not here to just to sell you a product. We're not here to just collect on a commission. It is very much a partnership. It's a relationship. It's a journey together. It's not about me making money and you not. It's not about me placing a product and then not talking to you again. It's a relationship that, at least in my eyes, that if I help somebody save now for retirement or save for their child's college, then I plan on being there 20 years from now when we're celebrating that milestone, that child just graduated from college, right? Or, I'm gonna be at the reception, helping lift them up in the chair and spinning the towel and getting crazy with them,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's fantastic, man. Just being that trusted advisor, right? Like that's part of my role as a real estate agent, is just being that fiduciary, just that trusted advisor across financial transactions and making sure that I'm pointing people in the right direction for their practice. Financial planners can do the same for your long-term future financial health, both personally and professionally, for sure. Rob, as we start to land this plane and wrap up this conversation, it's been fantastic. I've learned a ton already. I know that's part of my selfish reason for doing this series, was for me to learn from people that are way smarter than me in this role and in this world of financial planning and real estate building and stuff. So I appreciate you taking time to talk with me today. And we'll go back and kind of finish up talking about the big picture. Like, if somebody can only focus on one financial priority this year, they could just boil it down to one point, what would it be for you?
So I always say, wherever you can, build margin into your life. And again, it sounds
Well, that's
simplistic,
profound. Because
but
the margin's a lot of different things, right? Financially and with time and with different stuff. But yeah, margin's a good word.
yeah, I want to help people live that best version of their life, right? Use your time in the way that you most want to use it, and for better or worse in our world, like that's dollars are what create that level of freedom.
Yeah.
And so whenever we can build that margin financially, so that if we have to miss some work, we miss some work. I want to prioritize this vacation with my kids. I want to prioritize visiting family. I want to prioritize my time in my church or supporting this nonprofit that I love. That creates flexibility, right? It gives us back ownership of our time as opposed to giving it to our employer for how they can compensate us for our time. And it provides a ton of peace of mind, right? That if we have that margin and we're comfortable with where we're at, then we can wake up on any given day and feel comfortable just like going out and attacking life and getting after it and making it happen because regardless of what might happen on a given day, that we've got that breathing room, we've got that cushion.
Yeah, absolutely. That cushion is key, right? And it creates a peace of mind, and it creates just that space to breathe when everything else is kind of pressing in on you, knowing that you have that margin already built in is huge, both personally and professionally. So, as we start to wrap this up again, man, is there anything else, broad topics, broad brushstrokes, anything else that you think should be discussed here or that people should be thinking about if they're looking to expand or grow their business?
No, I'm big on, obviously a believer in what I do. I know based off our conversations, like in what you do in commercial real estate, like just a believer in professionals, right? And so developing relationships with professionals, whoever it might be, is something that's always to be encouraged. Like I think there are a lot of people that I've come across over the years that feel like, oh, well, I don't really have to network. I don't need to build these types of relationships because I don't have a sales job.
Hmm.
And I don't think that's true. I think we can all benefit from having that network of relationships, people that we can support that can support us and just so we can all learn, right? It's um and that's what I always encourage people to do is I'm that extrovert person, right? My wife, she could sit at home with her tea and a book and be totally happy 95% of the time.
Yeah.
Uh, but even if that's something you struggle with, find those professionals, people that you trust that you can rely on, and let them be that resource. Because like when we talk about margin, right? We all only have so much time in the day, only so many days in the week, weeks in the year, so on. So whenever we can find those people that we trust that can take on some of those responsibility, like that's that extra margin that we talked about. I don't have to worry about my investments because I know I got my financial planner over here. Like he's over there killing it. If there's something I need to worry about, he's going to let me know. I don't have to worry about my tax situation. I'm not going to owe the IRS. No problems there because I got a CPA that's got me squared away. I don't need to worry about, am I going to find a good office that, when I need to grow and expand and add some more clients because I got Rusty, Rusty's going to hook me up. He knows what's going on in the real estate space. So having those types of relationships and connections, they just cannot overstate the value that can bring to your life for sure.
Absolutely. Community is key, both in personal, professional life. Networking is key. We're not meant to do this alone. And there's a lot. Look, I learned a long time ago. I'm from the hills of North Mississippi, public school through and through in the state of Mississippi. That I've learned a long time ago. There are a lot of people out there much smarter than me that know so much more about real estate, life, finances, whatever the case is. Finding those people that can help pour into you on areas you're not as strong is huge. It's vital for your success, both personally and professionally, particularly in a financial world where there's so many like factors and volatility and ups and downs, and money is so emotional. That's a big takeaway for me today from our conversation is just behavior is key, discipline is key, and overcoming that emotion, because that's where mistakes happen in your financial future, right? Is emotional reactions to changes in the market, to the ups and downs that are natural throughout the ebbs and flow of a market. But if you're constantly reacting to those and over stressing, you're taking away some of the margin that you have and that peace of mind that you have that you are creating when your money is in good hands with a great financial planner like Rob, for sure. I mean, that's huge. Volatility is normal. You just got to find somebody that can help keep you grounded through it.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, Rob. So I appreciate the time today, man. Like I'm going to link all your contact information down here in the show notes. So those of you that are here, give us a thumbs up. It helps us more than you know. Take a look at that. If you have questions about your financial future, if you're looking for a new financial planner, or if you're looking for some great coffee, I'm going to link all of Rob's contact information down here. Rob, tell them where they can find you, like about your office, your business, as well as your coffee, social media wise, whatever you want to share.
Yeah. So we're my office. I'm in Germantown, Poplar, and Forest Hill. But p1financialplanning.com is the website. It's got all of my email, personal contact information on there. I'm always free for a visit. We don't charge when we do initial consultations. So if people have questions, again, like that's just a value add. I'm blessed with uh, the skill set that makes me enjoy talking about things that a lot of people just don't like talking about sometimes. So, I'm always happy to have a conversation with folks and see if there's ways we can help plug in and provide solutions and help people get started. For the coffee, it's the Family Cup Coffee. My wife, admittedly, she is the mastermind behind all of that. Social media is not my jam, but the Family Cup Coffee on Instagram. We do have a website as well. I know she was doing some updates to that though, so I don't know how live that is at the moment. But the Family Cup Coffee, we're technically based out of Carterville, but we do catering all over the city. We primarily operate out of a trailer for like our cafe events. We go to Seattle Park in East Memphis. We do weddings and pop-ups for businesses. It's kind of a if you need coffee and we can get there, then we can get you coffee.
Yeah, that's fantastic, man. I appreciate it. I know just hearing you talk about this today, you're obviously a subject matter expert. It put me at ease just thinking about my financial future and plans. So anybody out there, if you have some big financial decisions coming up, if you're a little bit lost in your investing, you don't know where to turn, cannot recommend Rob enough. Reach out to him at his contact information in the show notes below. And if some of those financial plans are about real estate and there's any way that I can help support you in that, I'm here for a cup of coffee as well. Make and get some of Rob's great coffee and make it for you. Or we can meet somewhere and talk about anything you have coming up over a cup of coffee. So once again, Rob, thank you for your time today. It's just super impactful and beneficial for me. So I know it will be for the people out there listening. So thank you once again for your time, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Rusty. I appreciate it, man. It was great. Enjoyed it.
Yeah, man. So for Coffee and Contracts for Rob Lackey, I am Rusty Witten. Go follow us on all of our social media platforms. We'll be back with more coffee conversations in the future, helping you grow your practice and your business. In the meantime, go be a friend to somebody who needs a friend, and we'll catch you next time on Coffee and Contracts.